Did Israel really bomb Qatar? It's a question that just days ago would have sounded like a far-fetched political thriller. Today, on September 11, 2025, it is a stark and shocking reality. The world is grappling with the aftershocks of an unprecedented military action. It has torn up the diplomatic rulebook of the Middle East. For the first time in history, the Israeli Defense Forces conducted a direct strike on a Gulf Cooperation Council member state. The implications are staggering, tremors of uncertainty from Washington to Tehran. The very idea is seismic. Qatar, once a key mediator, has now become a target. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. The calm of Doha, Qatar's glittering capital, was violently disrupted. At precisely 3:46 p.m. local time, the city's facade of peace and security was pierced by the roar of fighter jets and the thunder of explosions. According to official reports, a squadron of 15 IDF fighter jets unleashed a barrage of 10 munitions. The target, a residential compound in affluent Lataifia district. The assault was swift, precise, devastating. For the residents of Doha, it was a moment of sheer disbelief. First responders and emergency services rushed to the scene, their sirens wailing through streets more accustomed to the quiet hum of luxury cars. At the very moment the bombs fell, delicate negotiations were underway. Qatar, central mediator for a ceasefire in Gaza. Strike occurred while Hamas negotiators were reportedly gathered to discuss the latest peace proposal by U.S. President Donald Trump. To attack the host nation of peace talks while in session is breathtaking audacity. Israel striking a GCC nation was once hypothetical, now it is a historical fact. The attack wasn't just on a building, it was an assault on the established diplomatic order. The region and the world are now in uncharted territory, putting alliances, peace talks, regional stability on a knife's edge. The world must confront a new and dangerous chapter. The attack redraws the lines in the sand, literally and figuratively. Until this week, some territories were off limits. That agreement has been shattered. The strike on Doha sends a message. The battlefield has no borders. It raises terrifying questions about modern rules of engagement and challenges international diplomacy. The world watches, holding its breath, as consequences begin to unfold. What happened in Doha could define the Middle East for a generation, pushing peace further away or forcing a radical new approach. Answers are complex, buried in military secrecy, political maneuvering, and long histories of conflict, but understanding is crucial. The primary objective of the Israeli airstrike was clear and unambiguous: to decapitate the leadership of Hamas. For months, senior figures had been based in Doha. The main target was Khalil al-Hayya, a senior Hamas leader who has been a key figure in the organization for years. The strike was, in essence, a high-stakes assassination attempt aimed at eliminating him and his inner circle. However, the mission did not go according to plan. Khalil al-Hayya and the other senior Hamas leaders survived the bombardment. 6 people were killed in the attack. Among the dead was the son of Khalil al-Hayya, a devastating personal blow to the Hamas leader. Tragically, the dead also included a Qatari security officer, a casualty that transforms this from an attack on Hamas into an attack on the state of Qatar itself. The death of a Qatari national on Qatari soil at the hands of a foreign military is a profound violation of sovereignty that Doha cannot ignore. The Israeli operation, codenamed Summit of Fire, was the culmination of months of meticulous planning and intelligence gathering. Sources say the idea of striking Hamas leaders in Qatar had been on the table for some time, but planning accelerated dramatically in recent weeks, suggesting a sudden shift in strategy or new urgency in the war cabinet. Israel greenlit a high-risk mission believing the reward, eliminating Hamas's top tier, outweighed huge diplomatic fallout. The timing was deliberate. It coincided with a Hamas meeting on President Trump's ceasefire proposal. That points to 2 motives. 1. Multiple high-value targets were gathered in a single known location. 2. It sent a cynical message about confidence in the negotiation process. By striking the diplomatic effort, Israel signaled it would pursue a military solution on its own terms. The operation's complexity cannot be overstated. Hitting a target over 1,000 miles away demands flawless execution and deep intelligence. It involved identifying the targets, understanding their movement patterns, mapping security protocols, and the exact layout of their environment. Planners debated every detail, from the jet's flight path to the munitions payload. Netanyahu and his defense chiefs judged the window too valuable to pass up. Activating Summit of Fire was a pivotal strategic calculation, crippling Hamas versus alienating allies and derailing talks. It was born from a belief diplomacy had failed and that only decisive force would secure Israel. The operation marked a more aggressive phase, where old geographic and political limits no longer applied. The fire has been unleashed, but the ultimate outcome remains dangerously uncertain. This failed assassination attempt raises critical questions about the intelligence that prompted the strike. Did Israeli intelligence miscalculate the exact location of the leadership within the compound? Or was the operation a desperate gamble, launched with the hope of a successful outcome but without certainty? Whatever the reason for the failure, the consequences are severe. In the immediate aftermath of the airstrike, the serene Lektafaya district was transformed into a scene of chaos and destruction. The residential compound that had been the focus of the attack was reduced to a mangled mess of concrete, steel, shattered glass. Thick plumes of black smoke billowed into the afternoon sky, visible for miles across Doha's modern skyline. First responders and emergency services rushed to the scene, their sirens wailing through streets more accustomed to the quiet hum of luxury cars. The human cost of the attack quickly became apparent. Amidst the rubble, rescue workers uncovered the bodies of the 6 victims. For the city of Doha, the psychological impact has been profound. The attack shattered the carefully cultivated image of the city as an untouchable oasis in a turbulent region. Residents, both Qatari and expatriate, expressed shock and fear, realizing that conflicts that once seemed distant could now manifest on their own doorsteps. The Qatari government's response was swift and resolute. The nation's emir, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, was seen attending the funeral for the 6 victims, a powerful public display of mourning and defiance. The prime minister went further, delivering a fiery speech in which he labeled the Israeli action as state terrorism and called for Prime Minister Netanyahu to be brought to justice on the world stage. In a significant and highly unusual break from standard U.S. policy, President Donald Trump's administration issued a sharp and public criticism of Israel's actions. For decades, the United States has been Israel's staunchest defender on the world stage, often using its veto power at the United Nations to shield its ally from condemnation. However, the strike on Qatar, a key U.S. partner and host to American troops, appears to have crossed a line. The White House did not offer its usual justifications or calls for de-escalation. Instead, it delivered a direct and stinging rebuke of the Israeli government's unilateral decision. Vice President J.D. Vance, speaking to the press, stated unequivocally that President Trump doesn't think this serves Israel's interests or the United States' interests. He added, for emphasis, that the president was not happy about it. This sentiment was echoed by White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt, who characterized the operation as a unilateral bombing. In a prepared statement, she asserted that the strike does not advance Israel or America's goals. This language is a dramatic departure from the carefully calibrated diplomatic speak that typically defines U.S.-Israel relations, signaling a genuine and deep frustration within the Trump administration. The reason for Trump's anger is multifaceted. Firstly, the attack directly undermined his administration's signature diplomatic effort in the region, the Gaza ceasefire deal. The strike made a mockery of the peace talks he was personally championing, embarrassing the White House and its negotiators. Secondly, the attack put the United States in an incredibly awkward position with Qatar. The Al Udeid Air Base, located just outside Doha, is the largest U.S. military installation in the Middle East. An Israeli attack on the host nation of this critical base is a direct challenge to American strategic interests and regional stability, especially coming just months after an Iranian attack on the same base in June 2025. This rare public criticism matters immensely because it reveals a significant crack in the normally solid foundation of the U.S.-Israel alliance. While disagreements have happened behind closed doors in the past, a public dressing down of this nature is almost unheard of. It suggests that under the Trump administration, the special relationship is not a blank check. The president's America First doctrine appears to extend to situations where an ally's actions are perceived as directly harming U.S. interests. This public rift could have long-term consequences, potentially emboldening Israel's critics and forcing a re-evaluation of the dynamics of American foreign policy in the Middle East. Executing a successful airstrike over 1,200 miles from home base is a monumental military challenge that requires cutting-edge technology, superior piloting, and flawless logistical support. The Summit of Fire operation was a showcase of the Israeli Air Force's long-range strike capabilities. To cover the vast distance from Israel to Qatar and back, the squadron of IDF fighter jets had to perform mid-air refueling. A key element of the mission's initial success was the element of surprise achieved by evading the radar systems of multiple countries along the flight path. The international response to the Israeli airstrike on Doha was swift, widespread, and overwhelmingly negative. The United Nations Security Council, a body often paralyzed by vetoes in matters concerning Israel, managed to issue a statement condemning the attack. Qatar, as the direct victim of the attack, led the charge in denouncing Israel's aggression. Qatar announced that a regional response was already being discussed with its partners, and plans were underway for an emergency summit in Doha to formulate a unified strategy. The condemnation was not limited to the United Nations and the Arab world. Nations across Europe and Asia expressed deep concern over the strike's implications for regional stability. Many countries have relied on Qatar as an essential intermediary for everything from hostage negotiations to energy security. The global chorus of condemnation leaves Israel more isolated on the world stage than it has been in years. By attacking a sovereign nation, and a U.S. ally at that, during active peace negotiations, Israel has been widely cast as the aggressor. The Summit of Fire operation has pushed the Middle East to a precipice, leaving the future of peace talks for Gaza in tatters. It's difficult to imagine Hamas returning to the negotiating table. The process was violently interrupted by an attempt on their lives. Likewise, Qatar's role as a neutral mediator has been severely compromised. How can it host talks when its sovereignty has been violated? The attack has thrown the triangular relationship between the United States and Israel and Qatar into chaos. President Trump's rare public criticism of Israel has exposed a deep fissure in the alliance. At the same time, the U.S. must manage the fallout with Qatar. Washington is caught in an impossible position. It must reassure a vital partner while managing its ironclad ties with Israel. This diplomatic tightrope walk will test the limits of American influence. What happens next? Will Qatar retaliate? Will regional partners join in retaliation? What form could that retaliation take? A military response seems unlikely, but a coordinated diplomatic backlash or an economic backlash against Israel is a real possibility. Will Gulf nations that normalized relations with Israel reconsider those ties? The Abraham Accords now face their most severe test. The attack on a fellow GCC member could create a chilling effect that could halt progress toward regional integration. Ultimately, is peace still possible? Or has this strike ignited a more dangerous chapter, pulling in new actors and expanding the battlefield? The bombing of Doha on September 9, 2025 may have permanently altered the Gulf's political landscape. It shattered norms, it broke alliances, it replaced the faint hope of diplomacy with the stark reality of open hostility. The path forward is shrouded in uncertainty. The world watches. Will the region step back from the brink, or plunge headfirst into the abyss?